I'm going to take you back to January 6th, 2021. The certification of the Electoral College has historically been uneventful. However, something this time was different. The lie that Donald Trump had actually won the 2020 election encouraged people to march down to the Capitol building, force their way inside, and threaten the lives of our politicians and police officers. Later on, many of these people would be identified as members of an online movement known as QAnon. I am here to talk about the dangers that QAnon poses to the American public. Now, QAnon is a group of people who believe that, among other things, that the government is run by a satanic cult and that Donald Trump is supposed to be the person who exposes it and saves the country. Over the years, I have seen their beliefs evolve from believing that Hillary Clinton was planned the Benghazi attack and that the COVID-19 vaccine is actually a method to kill people. QAnon poses a threat to the American public by spreading potential misinformation, possibly radicalizing people, and possibly becoming violent in the future. One of the biggest pieces of misinformation that is currently being spread by QAnon supporters is the belief that Donald Trump actually won the 2020 election, despite there being no evidence of this. Many people on the far right are believing this, and one of the biggest supporters of this is Mike Lindell, the CEO of MyPillow. He even held a cyber symposium to attempt to prove that the Dominion election machines were rigged, which he did not. They also have been lying about the COVID-19 vaccine either being a way to inject microchips in people or actually being the real killer instead of the virus. This has led to many people hesitating to take the vaccine. Here's a video showing the effects that this lie has had.
I like to think would not need convincing. We met Robert Gannon before he went in to visit his 77-year-old mother, Kia, who is on a ventilator right now in the ICU due to COVID. Had she been vaccinated?
She was not vaccinated. I think she was being hesitant, just wanted to see how things played out.
Have you been vaccinated?
I have not.
What would it take for you to get vaccinated?
I want to make sure that it's safe.
Wow.
So, what kind of a person starts believing in these conspiracy theories? Well, I believe that the QAnon ideology actually radicalizes people. So QAnon gives home to those who believe in this misinformation and who dislike the current political climate. They are very accepting of people who agree with them, but heavily dislike anyone who disagrees with them. I believe this kind of an echo chamber leads people to become radicalized within the movement and are more willing to believe crazier conspiracy theories, like the fact that the government is run by a satanic cult, like COVID-19, the COVID-19 vaccine being a method to microchip people. Being online and you having your idea supported by people in this community, I believe does lead to radicalization. And I think radicalization eventually may lead to violence. So that being said, I believe that QAnon can cause people to commit violent acts against people who they believe stole the government from them. Many, like I said before, many of the people who participated in the January 6th attack were members of QAnon. In 2020, there are also 8 men who were arrested by the FBI for conspiring to kidnap the governor of Michigan. They also were known to frequent QAnon websites and forums. I believe that their online presence is what leads people to become violent, because on their online forums, I have personally seen them call to make calls to action to commit violent acts against people who they deem to be their enemies. Here is a video that clearly shows on their online presence was involved in January 6th.
Be there with you. An analysis of online activity lists QAnon as one of the many far-right groups calling for violence at the Capitol for weeks. Accounts linked to the group told followers to arm themselves, calling January 6th Independence Day. This QAnon follower told us she was at the Capitol riot, got to the steps.
We had a wonderful, wonderful gathering, because every gathering of President Donald J. Trump, it's like going to church.
That shows radicalization and calls to violence, in my opinion. So in conclusion, I believe that the QAnon movement is a threat to the American public because of the spread of misinformation, their willingness to become violent, and the radicalization of American people. Hopefully, the movement eventually does die down. For now, they are a present force in our political climate.